So today's video is going to be a speed review of my eyeshadow palettes. All of them I've had like either nearly a year or a year. So I thought now was the time to give a speed review so I could give my thoughts and give a review on all of these palettes. These are all the different eyeshadow palettes that I have. So let's just get straight on into it. So we're going to start with my two kind of show palettes. Let's start with the MU8 Purist palette, which looks like this. Trying not to get pigment all over the bed. So this palette has like purples, greens. You've got your colours like purples and greens. Have like your basic base, which is like this colour here I use for a basic base. Then I'll build it up with like the purples, and then I'll use a shimmer. Or I just go in neutral with this colour here and use like golds, something from another palette, or like the greens. So you get like your colours like your greens, like it's a colour here, and then there's some neutrals there. It's a very concise 10 shade palette. I like them. I find that they're not super pigmented, but they're really good. Like I find it does take some time to find brushes that work with them and how to like build it up. Like they're buildable, so I would say this is more a beginner that's got patience to learn. But I'm like, it's quite good if you don't want like loads of pigment. And I really like this cohesive colour story. There are about 1, 2, 3, 4 mattes, and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shimmers. I love the packaging, like, so cool. Now we're going to talk about my other show palette, the MU8 Jeweled palette. This is bigger, this is 15 shades. And that's the colour story. Like, it's a lot more warm toned, whereas this is probably a bit more like, kind of, I'd say like, this is definitely like warm toned, whereas the other one's a bit more like, probably a little bit more like, it's not as warm toned as this, I would say. This one is like pigment straight away. You have like your basic base, which is like this colour. You then have like your inner corner shimmers, and then you've got like these shimmers. So it says on the back, rich and vibrant, jewel inspired shades curated to make an impact. This stunning collection contains a mix of shimmer and mattes, high impact foil and multi-tone shades. For a show-stopping result behind a layer of shades, or wear alone for a softer look. I really like this, like you get your neutral browns and that, and you also get your bright warm colours. Like you can definitely do like warm colourful and warmer neutral. Like it's one where I'm like, there's so many options. You've got your inner corner highlight. You can use pink here and use the red to deepen it up. You can use orange and use like the peachier ones to blend it out. Or you can like use orange and use the red to deepen it. Or you've got like browns and you can like use some of these more mustard shimmers with them. Like you've got options. I love this colour story. Then next we have the MUA Peacock palette. This is definitely peacock shades nailed. Like you've got your purples and your greens and your blues. You also do have your neutrals and that, which I personally don't use the neutrals probably that much. I love the purples, the blues and the greens. Like you can see they're the ones where I've hit pan on. I've not really used much of the neutrals, like I'm not a big neutral lover. This was a palette I've had for about a year. Like this one I got Christmas 2021 along with this one. This one I got as a gift and this one I bought myself. So this one was, these I've had a year. I like them. You've got some shimmers, you've got your inner corner highlighters. Though MUA shadows can be powdery, kind of like, I would compare them to like Anastasia Beverly Hills shadows. So then we're going to move on to the Soph X Revolution palette. This is like your perfect everyday palette. Like, you've got your warm like colours, you've got your warmer tone shimmers, you've got more cool tone shimmers like the silver, this blue here. Like, I've got the yellow on my eyes today, literally I've just got eye makeup on and that's it. Pretty much. You've also got your more neutral tones, like you've got your light brown, dark brown, gold shimmer. You've got your matte black, so you can use this for either deepening up or eyeliner. My favourite neutral tone in there is chocolate orange. So it's a really good everyday palette. It feels like a lot of things. These shadows are buildable. These shimmers here, I would recommend spraying them, but I don't know if that's because I've hit pan that they're not as easy to pick up. Shades when I've hit pan. But I do like Makeup Revolution's eyeshadow formula. Like, you've got bright colours as well as neutrals. You can use the red and deepen it up with the burgundy shade. Next we're going to talk about the Barry M Black Cherry palette, which I got in like November. Like, this was like my second palette. Third palette. And it looks like this. Like, this is my favourite neutral colour story. This is like berry tones and that's my favourite. Like, the shimmers are insane. You've got your inner corner, which glazed I use for inner corner. Or wild if I want something more bold. Sour or ripen. Mostly ripen I'll use for an inner corner. This is a good travel palette. 2022, I really fell in love with this palette. Like, you've got your basic base, which is cherry tart. Glaze works as an inner corner. Ripen, sour and wild are all really good shimmers. You can use juiced, which is a pink, and deepen it up with poison, which is more of a burgundy shade. Then you've got Bakewell, which you can use bitten to like deepen it up. It's just such a good palette. So now we're going to talk about another palette. This is the Makeup Revolution Forever Flawless palette. This is like peaches and browns, like this is such a good, like, you've got your matte white, which is a basic base. The shimmers are really good. I'd say they're quite creamy, and there's like that glitter there, which is so good on an inner corner. Also, Attraction's a good inner corner. Infinity is also good. Also, Love's good, but I do tend to use that more on the lid. But this is such a good palette. I like the orange, which is the shade Forever. Force is a good pink. But definitely not as bright as the Barry M palette. Pink. Works well. Such a good palette. Now we're going to talk about my single shadow here. This is from like With Love Cosmetics. This is such a good, it works well with like eye primer underneath it. Like, I don't really get any fallout, it's just such a good shimmer, like the colour, it works really well. Then finally we're moving on to this little Barry M. This is so concise, like this is such a concise, colourful palette. It's a shame it's shattered and broken, but it's so good. I like the silver, I like the yellow, I like the orange, I like all the colours. Like, it's just such a concise, colourful palette, though it is quite fragile, so I would not. I recommend this as a travel palette. Like, it does not travel well at all. Like, the MUA shadows are quite delicate, but I love the colours. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in another video. Bye.